Incredible journey of a U.S. Navy diver. Discover the touching truth behind his hidden legacy. Jake stood on the family dock, 1,000 memories flooding back with each crashing wave. Seagulls cried overhead, their shrieks a haunting reminder of all he had left behind. Years of military training had sculpted him into a disciplined diver, a hero in the eyes of many. Yet standing there, Jake felt anything but heroic. He had returned to his hometown, a small coastal gem in New England, filled with proud fishermen carrying the weight of sacrifice. But he felt like a ghost in his own life. At 28, he had become a diver, facing the depths of the ocean on missions that required unwavering courage. Each day in training was grueling. He conquered physical challenges, but it was the emotional weight that threatened to pull him under. He couldn't help but remember the look of disappointment on his father's face when he chose the Navy instead of the fishing boat that had been in their family for generations. That boat had seen countless sunrises and proud catches, but Jake only saw a fading legacy, a legacy he didn't want to be weighed down by. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "You've abandoned us, Jake. This family has fought through storms and hard times. We need you." Jake had thought about that accusation a lot. The further he distanced himself from his fishing roots, the stronger the pull back home felt, a fishing line too taut, threatening to snap. But everything changed the day he plunged into disaster. Ordered to save lives trapped in a sinking vessel, Jake had descended into darkness. Heart racing, he recalled the moments of fear mixed with resolve. Each kick of his fins propelling him into the unknown felt like a battle cry. Through sheer grit and determination, Jake emerged a hero, saving a crew that would surely drowned. The news of his actions spread like wildfire back home, igniting a complicated mixture of pride and resentment. "Jake, the hero," they cheered in town. But cheers felt hollow next to the tension at home. And so the whispers began. Admiration mingled with criticism, like salt mixing in the water. The fishing community that once rallied behind men in uniforms now stood divided. His father's accusations rang louder in his ears. "You care more about the glory than our family's struggle." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. One evening, a community meeting was called, and Jake felt a surge of hope mixed with dread. As he stood before the townsfolk, he felt their fear of change echoing back at him. He heard their concerns over the struggling fishing industry and the sacrifices made by families like his. In that moment, the embers of his spirit rekindled as he realized that honor and sacrifice could take on new meanings in a world shifting like the tides. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting a golden glow on the water, Jake faced his father again by the dock. Unspoken words hung between them, heavy and full of regret. Jake's heart thumped. He was ready to bridge the gap between expectation and identity. Would he finally reveal the truth about his bravery, how it resulted in new opportunities for the community? Or would the silence remain, a suffocating fog trapping him between two worlds? The answer hovered just out of reach, echoing the questions of his heart. The night air was thick with tension as Jake glanced back at the old fishing boat, its paint peeling and seats worn down by time. Memories of his childhood flared up like old photographs, moments of laughter and competition. Yet the image of his father standing fiercely at the helm overshadowed them all. Jake took a deep breath, the salt in the air mixing with a rising resolve. The time had come to address not just his father, but the entire community. His heart raced, a rolling tide of uncertainty and hope. "Can we talk?" he finally said, his voice almost swallowed by the gentle lapping of the water against the dock. His father looked at him, the lines of time etched on his face like the scars of their struggles. Jake could see the flicker of recognition in his father's eyes but chose to step closer, bearing the vulnerability that lay beneath his bravado. "First, I want you to know, I didn't leave because I didn't care. I thought I could do something bigger, something that could help. The words hung in the air, heavy with hesitation. His father remained silent, arms crossed, as if guarding a treasure of emotions he wasn't ready to share. But the truth is, I've been struggling with that choice. Every time I put on that uniform, I think of you, Jake continued, heart pounding louder than the waves. I didn't mean to abandon our legacy. It's just that I felt called to serve. His father shifted slightly, the freeze in his posture softening ever so minutely. You chose the Navy over the family boat. You turned your back on what we built together. You don't know what it's like to sit and watch this place struggle. I do know. Jake interjected, a flash of anger boiling over. It felt unfair, like a cruel wave crashing into him when all he meant to do was share his heart. You think I wanted to see our family name fade away? I joined because I wanted to make a difference. I thought each dive could mean saving lives, bringing hope to someone else. The sky was a canvas of darkening blues, and his father's face shadowed in the dim light. It was hard to tell if he felt anger or pain, but Jake could almost hear the wheels turning in his father's mind. Tension swelled as the silent acknowledgement of understanding began to bridge their silent divide. Then, as if summoned by his words, a shooting star streaked across the twilight sky, its fleeting beauty a reminder of wishes long held. Jake, his father began, taking a step forward. It's not that I don't understand sacrifice. I just want you to understand family. There's honor in what you did, but there's also honor in what we do here on the water. Jake swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat. I know we've been at odds, and I can't erase the past. But I want to be a part of this community again. I want to help, whether it's through diving or finding new sustainable ways to support our fishermen. I need your blessing. I need to bring the Navy and this town together. His father's eyes softened, the defenses slowly crumbling. Yet, before the words could escape his lips, a distant horn reverberated along the coastline. Jake's heart sank into a blend of concern and curiosity that unfolded just as the townsfolk murmured in the distance. What's going on? Jake asked, glancing back toward the main street where shadows flickered against the gathering darkness. His father's expression turned serious, a steely resolve returning. You have to see this, Jake. It's about the future of fishing here. And it's not just a celebration. It might need men like you again. Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. The meeting had been about addressing fears, but maybe it was about more than that. Maybe this was a chance to shift the tide, to bind both worlds. He loved the community he felt drifting away and the life he had fought for abroad. They rushed toward the sound, hearts racing with a sense of impending revolution. As they reached the edge of the crowd, Jake clutched his father's arm, both of them barely able to breathe from the anticipation. Whatever was coming, it might change everything. But would they stand together as a united front, or would they sink beneath old wounds? The answer loomed just ahead, swirling like mist over the water, waiting to be revealed in an unforeseen moment. As they pushed through the crowd, Jake's heart pounded in his chest. Faces he'd known as a child filled his vision, worn and weathered like the old boat. Their eyes danced with expressions ranging from curiosity to apprehension. Each glance pierced him with memories of summers spent fishing and the camaraderie that had once knitted this community together. The horn echoed again, louder this time. There's been a sighting, someone shouted from the front. A sense of urgency rippled through the gathering, drawing them closer to the source of the commotion. What sighting? Jake asked, urgency tight in his voice. His father's grip tightened on his shoulder. The pod of dolphins. They've never come this close to the shore in years. It's a good sign, a sign that the waters might recover. Hope flickered in Jake's chest. He remembered the stories of dolphins playing alongside their boats, the way his father would laugh, his voice ringing out like music on the water. It was a time when everything felt right and certain. Pushing towards the front, Jake caught glimpses of the water glittering under the bond of cool night. Suddenly, the crowd erupted in cheers, pointing towards the cresting waves. Dark shapes danced across the surface, breaking through the water like graceful arcs of light. Joy swept through the crowd, their collective spirit uniting them once more. Look at them. Someone near him shouted, laughter blending with applause. Jake felt his father's grip relax. He stole a glance at him, trying to decipher the mix of emotions on his face. Was that a smile? Slowly, they both looked back at the playful dolphins, their spirits igniting something in the hearts of the people around them. But as joyous as it felt, a creeping worry tugged at Jake's mind. What if the dolphins were here for more than just a fleeting moment? Would their presence spark ambition? Or would it remind the community of what they had lost? A wave of laughter burst forth, but he sensed an edge of uncertainty beneath it. Dad, Jake said, urgency lacing his words. What if this isn't just about the dolphins? What if this could be our chance? His father turned, brows furrowed. A chance to do what? To adopt new ways of fishing, to showcase sustainable practices, and to bring back tourism. We could work with the Navy to educate our fishermen about marine preservation. The words came faster now, fueled by a flicker of excitement. This could breathe life back into our community. For a moment, his father studied him, eyes glistening with understanding. And what if it fails? Then we'll keep trying, Jake replied, fierce and determined. But if we don't, we'll have lost everything. We need to rally everyone now, while they're excited about this moment. As if answering his call, the cheers grew louder, echoing beneath the nighttime sky. More people pushed toward the water's edge, eyes wide with wonder. The moment pulsed with possibility, charged with the promise of revival and a future worth fighting for. Jake grasped his father's arm, desperate for support. Let us not waste this. We have the community's attention, let us give them hope. But before his father could respond, a sudden hush swept over the crowd. The dolphins disappeared, returning to the depths from which they came, leaving behind a shimmering wake in their absence. The collective excitement faded to murmurs, the reality of their fading joy settling like a dense fog. Jake felt the air grow heavy. What now? He whispered, feeling the weight of the community's eyes upon him. His father's face turned serious again. You tell them, he said, stepping back to give Jake room. It's your turn. The crowd parted as Jake stepped forward, heart racing, all eyes on him. The moment had come to seize, to confront fears and dreams alike. He cleared his throat, preparing to voice the vision that could unite them once again. What if there's more we can do? He began, his voice steady, invoking the resilience he found in the waves beneath them. But just then, a shout echoed from the back, an insistent voice that drew every gaze. What if we lost everything already? The shift in tone sent a tremor of uncertainty racing through Jake's mind. Would the doubts rise again, or could he turn the tide of despair into hope? Now more than ever, he needed to convince not just his father, but the entire community, that they could transform their struggles into strength. How far would he have to go to make them believe? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everyone's expectations pressing down on his chest. The voice that had cut through the air echoed in his mind. What if they had already lost everything? He looked around, faces basking in the glow of fading excitement, and sensed the tension gathering. It was now or never. He shifted his weight, grounding himself in that moment. I know it feels like hope just slipped away with the dolphins, he began, his voice rising above the murmurs of disbelief. But this could be our wake-up call. The crowd shifted, some nodding along while others remained unconvinced. A mix of hope and apprehension mingling in the air. What if we failed before? Came a voice from the back, shaky yet defiant. It was Mary, an old friend whose family had been fishing for generations. What if change is too hard? That's the thing, Jake exclaimed, wiping the sweat from his brow. Change is hard, but do we really want to keep doing what hasn't worked for us? Look around, look at this energy. We don't have to just wait for those dolphins to come back. We can create a future where our waters are healthy and bring those dolphins back for good. His words seemed to spark a flicker in Mary's eyes. She crossed her arms, pondering. And how do we do that? What's the first step? He seized the moment, feeling momentum building. We can hold meetings, workshops, educate ourselves about sustainable practices, work with experts, and find new ways to protect our resources. The excitement poured out him, swirling into the hearts of those gathered. Let us pull together. Just like the dolphins swim in pods, we can support one another. Jake could feel the collective turn within the crowd. Some faces began to soften, curiosity overcoming skepticism. They whispered among themselves, "What if?" "Look," Jake continued, voice firm and steady. "Every time we meet something challenging, we can either let it sink us, or we can rise together and adapt. We've done it before and we can do it again." He scanned their faces, searching for any flicker of belief. It was there, hidden beneath layers of uncertainty. "What about the fishermen?" someone yelled. "They risk everything for their families." "Yes, and that's why we need to fight for them, for their future." Jake's voice rang out, filled with conviction. "We can help them learn new methods that can lead to better catches and healthier waters. Imagine the sense of pride bringing our community back together, revitalized and stronger." The crowd buzzed with renewed energy. Slowly, heads began to nod, a ripple of agreement flowing through the gathering. Jake felt the warmth of shared hope growing. Mary stepped forward. "All right, I see what you're saying. Maybe there is something worth fighting for after all." Just then, the clouds broke apart overhead, and a canopy of stars emerged, twinkling like the light in the community's eyes. Cheers erupted once again, heartfelt and full of spirit. Each applause felt like a promise of change, of unity, of rebirth. But in the back of Jake's mind, a cold sliver of doubt lingered. Could they really pull this off? What if their efforts weren't enough? As the energy amplified around them, Jake knew they were on the cusp of something momentous. The crowd began to chant, their voices rising in unison. But with every cheer, a thought haunted him. Could he truly lead them into this new chapter without crashing into the same old rocks? Just as he prepared to reel them in with further enthusiasm, he caught sight of something in the water, an unexpected shape breaking the surface once more. "What is that?" he whispered under his breath, heart racing as he stepped back, eyes fixed on this new mystery unfolding. He could feel the weight of all their expectations again, a new tide rising. What could this mean for their journey ahead? Jake squinted at the shimmering surface of the water, trying to make sense of the shadow lurking just beneath. The excitement in the air turned to a palpable tension, the crowd's chanting fading into a murmur. "What is it?" Whispers fluttered like leaves in the breeze, as people strained to get a better view. Suddenly, a fin sliced through the water, and gasps erupted from the crowd. It wasn't just one, it was a small pod of dolphins, returning as if summoned by their collective hope. Jake's heart raced, the slick feeling of disbelief turning into overwhelming joy. "Look, there they are," he shouted, pointing excitedly. The dolphins twirled and danced, their sleek bodies glistening under the moonlight, graceful and free. The crowd erupted into cheers, the sound echoing across the water and rising higher with each leap of the dolphins. Jake felt his heart soar. It was as if the universe was reaffirming their vision, giving them a sign that they could indeed create a brighter future. "See!" Jake shouted, hardly able to contain his excitement. "They came back. That's proof. If we fight for this ecosystem, our efforts will pay off. This is not just about the dolphins. It's about our community and our families." The audience mirrored his enthusiasm, faces lit with a determination that bulged like the tides. Mary, with a sparkle of understanding in her eye, stepped forward again. "You might be right, Jake. Maybe it's about caring for the waters and all the life within them. We owe it to the future." Others joined her, stepping out of the shadows of doubt and embracing the possibility of action. Conversations sparked anew, people leaning in, eager to brainstorm how they could kickstart this change. Jake felt an electric energy flowing, and he knew this wasn't just a passing moment, it was a movement. As the dolphins continued their mesmerizing ballet, Jake turned his gaze toward the horizon, uncertainty snagging at his heart once more. But will it be enough? A new wave of apprehension washed over him. What if this is just a flash in the pan? What if the dolphins leave again, and we're left with nothing? He shook his head, hoping to banish the negativity. Those doubts would not hold him back now. They were standing on the edge of something profound. If they could rally around this moment, he had to believe they could make real change happen. "Let us meet tomorrow," he called out, urgency creeping back into his voice. "Let us gather, talk about what we can do, and create a plan." Heads bobbed in agreement, and murmurs of excitement rippled among them. He felt like he was gaining momentum, but a sinking feeling lingered in the pit of his stomach. What if the people who needed this change most, the fishermen, the families living the struggle every day, found reasons to resist instead of uniting with them? That thought hung in the air, a question waiting to be answered. And yet, as he watched the dolphins leap one last time before disappearing back beneath the waves, he clung to a sliver of hope. They could work together. They had to. Just then, a chilling wave moved through the crowd. Someone shouted towards the water. "Look, is that?" Jake turned back quickly, eyes widening. Another unexpected shape emerged, but this time it wasn't the familiar sleek dolphin. It was larger, darker. Panic surged through him as everyone held their breath, anticipation mingling with uncertainty. He had to know what it was. What else lies beneath the surface? He wondered, adrenaline rushing through him anew. Could change everything. The figure broke through the water with a powerful splash, sending droplets cascading into the air. For a fleeting moment, all Jake could see was the arching back and the fluke tail flicking as it submerged again. Gasps rippled through the crowd, the cheers from moments earlier now replaced by a hush, a collective holding of breath. "What is that?" someone whispered, eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. Jake's pulse quickened. His mind raced, piecing together bits of knowledge he had about marine life. Was it a shark? A whale? Something more ominous? Before Jake could formulate his thoughts further, the dark shape resurfaced. This time, it was clearer. A massive, grayish figure propelled itself onto the water's surface, revealing an unmistakable dorsal fin, a whale. Not just any whale, but a humpback. The crowd, initially paralyzed, erupted into shocked murmurs of awe. "Can you believe it?" Jake exclaimed, unable to contain his excitement despite the shadow of worry lingering in his mind. The pod of dolphins had somehow attracted a majestic whale, a creature revered and thought to be an omen of change. What did this mean for their cause? As the behemoth of the sea moved gracefully, its presence seemed to invigorate the crowd. Kids pointed and laughed, their wide eyes sparkling with wonder. Adults looked at each other, sharing smiles that only moments of unexpected beauty can inspire. Mary moved closer to Jake, excitement radiating from her. "This is more than just a show. I senti it. This whale, it could symbolize hope for us." Jake's heart thumped harder against his chest. She was right. The whale was a beacon, a reminder of the splendor and fragility of their ecosystem. Yet, the question lingered, gnawing at him. What if the whale's arrival was a sign of impending danger rather than a herald of hope? The waters must be in turmoil if such a powerful creature had come this way. That he leaned in closer to Mary. "We can't just be in awe. We need to prepare for whatever it means. That whale could be in distress." The crowd was still enthralled, their eyes glued to the dance of the whale and the splashing dolphins, unaware of the lurking realities beneath the surface. Jake cast a cautious glance towards the horizon, where the dark outline of the Mirio threatened to swallow the moon's light. As the humpback performed an impressive breach, sending waves crashing back against the shore, Jake forged a path through the now moving crowd. "Hey, everyone," he shouted, desperation leaking into his voice. "We need to focus. Whatever is happening out there might not be good. Let us not just marvel. We have to act. We have to understand why they're here." A few people hesitated but then began to follow him. A group, once gripped by disbelief, now shifted into a united front, some out of caution, others out of sheer curiosity. As they reached a lookout point on the rocky shore, the view widened, revealing the shimmering chaos of the sea, alive with movement. "What do we do?" Mary asked as they gathered. "We can't just leave them alone out there." Jake looked at her, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "We find out what's causing the changes, and we protect them. But it starts now. Tonight is just the beginning." A distant rumble broke through the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. The crowd turned their heads to the ocean as strange sounds echoed. It was low and haunting. A shiver of anticipation coursed through Jake. Could it be? He thought, dread crawling up his spine. He took a step back, studying the chaotic waves rippling out. Whatever lied below, the stakes were rising, and they had to get involved before it was too late. What are we about to discover? He dared to wonder as the darkness loomed ever closer. And with that question hanging in the night air, Jake felt both fear and determination fuel his next steps. It felt like they were on the brink of something monumental. The waves crashed harder against the rocks as Jake's heart raced. Every crash seemed to echo his fears, a rhythm of anxiety building inside him. The low rumble continued, a haunting sound reverberating in the air, intensifying their urgency. "Jake," Mary's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. "What do you think is really happening out there?" He turned to her, desperation in his eyes. "The whale is here for a reason. We need to find out what's causing all of this." His voice trembled slightly. "Something isn't right." The crowd, now a mix of worried townsfolk and curious onlookers, began to murmur among themselves. Faces began to shift from wonder to concern as the sounds from the sea grew louder, almost as if the ocean itself was crying out. A young boy tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, are we going to help the whale?" His innocence was a reminder of what they stood to protect, a fragile thread of hope in a world that often seemed indifferent. Mary knelt down beside him, her gaze steady. "We're going to do everything we can. Right, Jake?" She looked at him, her eyes soft yet fierce. "Yeah," he replied, his voice firm. "We begin by organizing a group to monitor the waters. We'll watch for signs, communicate with the Coast Guard if necessary, and find out what's causing this disturbance." A ripple of agreement spread through the crowd. People began to gather, nodding and murmuring plans. Jake's heart swelled, the strength of the community igniting a spark in him. They were no longer just spectators. They were a team, ready to stand tall against uncertainty. "Gather any supplies you can find. Phones, cameras, binoculars, anything that can help," Jake called out, trying to rally everyone. He glanced at the horizon again, where the silhouette of the whale danced against the darkening sky. "We have to keep our eyes on that water and figure this out together." Mary slipped her hand into his, squeezing tightly. The little gesture gave him a surge of strength. He turned to her, finding courage reflected in her gaze. It felt as though they were stepping into a storm, hands clasped tightly together, facing whatever lay ahead. Time passed fast as people scurried about, the air electric with purpose. A group gathered atop a rocky outcrop, binoculars steady in their hands, scanning the waters. Others took to their phones, sharing updates and gathering information. Suddenly, the rhythmic sound returned, deeper and more resonant. Jake froze, feeling the ground vibrate underfoot. Was it the ocean in distress? An earthquake? He turned to the group, uncertainty creeping back in. "What is this? Is this normal?" A woman beside him shook her head, visibly shaken. "No, it's not. Something is very wrong." Panic began to set in among the group. Concerned faces glanced at each other, whispering anxiously. They found solace in each other. Yet the weight of the unknown pressed heavily on their hearts. Jake's own stomach twisted with unease. "I need everyone to stay calm," he said, raising his voice above the murmurs. "We will find answers. Stick together, focus, and let us stay sharp." Just as he spoke, a shadow shifted beneath the surface of the water. Jake squinted, watching as a darker form brushed against the whale. A smaller silhouette emerged, but it wasn't a dolphin. It was unmistakably another whale, younger, struggling. Gasps filled the air. "Look, over there," someone shouted. The crowd turned, eyes wide as they witnessed the scene unfolding. "What's happening?" Mary whispered, clutching Jake's arm tighter. He felt a shiver travel down his spine. "I don't know, but we can't let this happen. We need to act." Just then, a deep, echoing sound erupted from the depths, and the surface of the water exploded into foam. Something massive was coming. J.'s heart raced as he realized they were on the brink of confronting whatever sinister force was at work beneath the waves. "Hold on tight," he shouted. "We need to be ready." The group clustered closer, a chain of determination forged in fear. What else awaited them in the darkness? What dangers were brewing below? Gritting his teeth, Jake prepared for the unknown as they braced themselves for the battle ahead. This was only the beginning, and the truth was lurking, waiting to make itself known. What had they stumbled into? The water churned violently as if the ocean itself was protesting their presence. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental, the stakes too high to comprehend. "Look!" shouted a man standing at the rocky outcrop. His voice carried urgency, breaking through the murmurs of the crowd. Jake squinted into the frothy chaos. There, just beneath the surface, shadows danced eerily. "Get the binoculars," he urged the group. Hands rushed toward the supplies, and the tension thickened in the air like a heavy fog. Mary's grip on his arm tightened as they both strained to see. "I think it's another whale," someone gasped, eyes wide in disbelief. Just then, with a crashing sound, the dark shape surged upward, breached, and then fell back into the depths, sending a spray of salt water into the air. The powerful geyser caught the afternoon sun, casting rainbows in the mist. But the beauty of the moment was quickly overshadowed by fear. "What if it's in pain?" a woman murmured, her voice trembling. "We should do something." Jake felt a fierce determination surge within him. "We will," he promised, though inside he wrestled with uncertainty. He had no experience with marine life, let alone rescuing whales. But instinct and the urgency of despair pushed him forth. Gathering his courage, he brushed his wet hair back from his forehead, scanning the crowd. He took a deep breath. "Does anyone know how to handle a rescue like this? Have you ever worked with marine animals?" A murmur of disbelief swept through the crowd. Faces were set in worry, the unified front slowly fraying under the weight of fear. "I've read about it," a voice chimed from the back. A young woman stepped forward. "I volunteered at an aquarium. I can help. This is our chance," Jake declared, fueled by hope. "Let us form a plan. Get supplies for a makeshift raft, anything that can support the young whale. We may need to keep it calm." Mary nodded. "I can help coordinate. We'll work together. Everyone has a role to play." With newfound purpose, the group hustled into action, splitting off into teams. Jake felt a small part of his doubt subside. They weren't alone. They had each other. Moments felt like hours as they gathered ropes, old surfboards, and even a couple of coolers to construct something that could aid in the rescue. The sense of urgency was palpable, and despite their fear of the unknown, hope flickered like a candle in the chaos as they worked. A continuous deep rumble from the depths reverberated through their chests, echoing the collective heartbeat of the town. Suddenly, the surface erupted again. A colossal dorsal fin sliced through the water, followed by a quick glimpse of the adult whale rocking back and forth. Jake's stomach turned in knots. "Stay close," he yelled as he led the group back to the edge of the rocks, peering into the tumultuous sea. "We're getting closer." As the water began to calm slightly, a glimmer of silver broke through the chaos. A struggling baby whale surfaced, gulping for air. Its body glistened, and with every breath, a flicker of hope ignited in the eyes of the onlookers. They had found it. Before Jake could process, Mary pressed close to him, her voice shaking but determined. "What now, Jake? We can't just wait." Jake inhaled sharply, the urgency of the situation washing over him. This was it. If they didn't act soon, the baby whale wouldn't survive. "We need to get the raft into the water. We can guide it to safety." But he quickly glanced back toward the adult whale, its mournful call echoing through the air, like a mother searching for her lost child. The truth hit him hard. They couldn't just save one. They needed to help them both. "Listen, everyone," Jake shouted, grounding his tone with authority. "We need to coordinate our efforts. We might have to find a way to comfort the adult while ensuring the baby is taken care of." But as he spoke, The shadows beneath the surface shifted ominously once more. The dark water rippled, and the tension returned, thick and suffocating. What else was lurking below? Together, Jake and Mary faced uncertainty, but their hearts raced with purpose. As the crowd began to strategize, a new sound vibrated from the depths, a foreboding call that chilled them to the bone. What secret did the ocean hold, and what force were they about to confront? The tension in the air crackled like static electricity. Jake felt his heart pounding, keeping rhythm with the deep, resonating calls from the adult whale. He could sense the crowd around him holding its breath, teetering on the edge of hope and despair. They had come together, a ragtag team united by purpose and desperation, but its strength was still fragile. "Let us move," Mary urged, her eyes gleaming with determination. She pointed toward the scrap of surfboard they managed to scrounge together. "Who's ready to help me launch this?" Jake glanced at the people around him. Fear and resolve mingled in their expressions. Some had already formed a chain, passing along ropes and bits of equipment, while others stared at the water, hoping for a miracle. As the makeshift raft took shape, Jake spotted the baby whale struggling further out. It was small, vulnerable, thrashing aimlessly, its cries echoing against the cliffs. "Stay strong," Jake called out, his voice carrying over the chaotic backdrop of the ocean. "We're coming." They lifted the raft, a patchwork of boards, ropes, and memories adjusting their stance as waves crashed around them. The crowd shifted, parting to allow Jake and Mary to push it forward. Just then, another low groan reverberated from the depths. Jake tensed, his instincts screaming at him. "What was that?" He whispered, mostly to himself. Suddenly, without warning, a massive figure broke the surface again, a shadow contrasting starkly against the bright sunlight, and the air around them froze. A dark, formidable shape loomed just below the surface. It was the adult whale, swaying, coming closer. Jake's breath caught in his throat. "Everyone back up. It might be trying to protect the baby." Jake shouted as he instinctively stepped in front of Mary, guarding her from the unknown. As the shadow approached, it became clear that the massive creature was distressed. It spouted water violently, sending drops onto the rocks where they stood. The rhythm of its breaths echoed through the air, desperate and heavy. "What if the baby isn't the only one in trouble?" Mary asked in a hushed voice, eyes wide with fear. Jake's mind raced. "Maybe the adult is hurt too. Feels our tension. We need to calm it down." While the crowd was mobilizing, Jake remembered the piece about marine life he'd seen on television. "If we make soothing sounds, it might help," he said, glancing around. "Can anyone sing? Or hum? Use your voices." As if inspired by his words, the crowd began to hum a low, melodic tune, one he could barely hear above the crashing waves. They found some harmony together. A beautiful, gentle sound carried across the water. It felt like a collective prayer, reaching out to both creatures in distress. Slowly, the adult whale paused, its movements becoming more graceful, almost curious. It floated closer, its enormous eye meeting Jake's. He saw both a plea and a flicker of understanding. "Let us prepare the raft," Jake urged, keeping his gaze on the whales. "Once we have the baby near, we can bring them together." His heart raced, but something shifted inside him. A sense of peace washed over him. He understood now. The connection between these creatures ran deeper than he could have ever imagined. They shared a bond that echoed something within him, a drive to protect. With renewed energy, the group assembled the raft more quickly, determined to succeed. Mary stayed at his side, her determination shining brightly, spurring others. "We can do this," she shouted, her voice a beacon against the tumult. As they launched the raft into the surf, an unexpected roar filled the air, deeper and stronger than before. The ocean churned violently once more, and fear gripped Jake's heart. What if this was the storm they had all been waiting for? But amidst the turmoil, the adult whale began to breach, a powerful reminder of nature's untamed spirit. Jake knew the time to act was now, but uncertainty loomed ahead. Could they truly save both whales, or had they stepped into forces far beyond their control? The realization settled over him like a heavy fog, stifling yet intriguing. Together, they would face whatever came next. What perilous revelation awaited just beneath the surface? As the tumultuous waves swirled around them, Jake felt the weight of the moment pressing down like a storm cloud. The air crackled with tensions, highs and lows like a roller coaster. "We have to act, and now," he shouted, rallying the spirit of the townsfolk. The improvised raft bobbed in the frothing sea, held together by a thread of hope and collective courage. Their voices unified into a calming melody, the hum resonating through water and air, bridging the gap between them and the whales. Jake glanced back at Mary, who was balancing hope and anxiety in her eyes. "We've got this," he whispered to her, taking a deep breath. The adult whale's gaze bore into him, seeking reassurance amidst distress. "Don't break that connection," Mary cried, as a sudden wave crashed against the rocks, sending a cascade of salt water splattering across their faces. The sight of the struggling baby whale tugged at their hearts, a pure embodiment of vulnerability in the dark, swirling waters. Holding his breath, Jake edged closer to the raft. "Let us get it ready," he called. Together, they secured makeshift ropes, readying the craft for a daring endeavor. Pulling back his shoulders, he felt adrenaline surge through him. It was now or never. And then, a moment of stillness fell like a blanket over the noisy tumult. The crowd's sound ebbed. The adult whale lifted its great head from the water, its breath echoing stark against the air. An invitation for them to act. Jake's heart thundered as the giant creature moved, a majestic presence demanding respect. "Everyone now," Jake yelled, urging them to push the raft forward. Hearts raced together, a chorus of determination mixed with vulnerability. With the raft finally freed from the rocky shores, buoyed by collective commitment, Jake gently maneuvered it toward the struggling baby whale. It floated, desperately surfacing for air, its cries blending with the hum of the crowd. "Almost there. Keep it steady," Jake commanded as he leaned over the edge. He could sense the warmth pulsing in the air, like the rhythm of their unified heartbeat. He reached out, hoping to bridge the worlds they were fighting to protect. Suddenly, the adult whale lurched forward, arching its back and sending splashes into the air with a forceful thrust. "Whoa!" the crowd gasped, pulling back instinctively. But Jake held his ground. Sensing an urgent connection, the adult's wild gaze locked onto him again, guiding him. It was a shared trust, a bond that went deeper than words could express. "Let us calm her," Mary shouted, but Jake shook his head. Even as panic swirled in his belly, he felt a wave of clarity wash over him. They weren't just rescuing creatures. They were uniting a community. Suddenly, vibrant colors broke through the water's chaos as the baby whale peaked again, struggling yet closer. Jake's pulse quickened. "Keep singing. Keep holding the energy." Voices mingled with the roar of the surf, creating a sanctuary amid the storm. With a final push, Jake leaned out, extending his arm toward the baby, feeling the energy from the crowd pulsing through him. "You're safe now," he reassured, his voice strong, filled with warmth. Then, for a fleeting moment, the world tilted. Jake glimpsed hope shimmering in the corner of his eye. The baby whale surged toward them, drawn by the promise of safety. The splashes echoed like laughter, joyous and wild in the air, and just like that, in a beautifully orchestrated twist of fate, the adult whale surged forward, circling the raft, a shield of protection around its young. It was a fierce show of unity and love, the strength of family unfolding before their very eyes. "That's it," Jake shouted, his heart batting wildly against his chest. "We're here for both of you." As they extended their touch toward the baby, the adult whale seemed to relax, its massive eye calming as their collective chorus filled the air. The baby whale responded, nudging against the raft, trusting, allowing Jake to reach its slick skin. Time slowed, each heartbeat echoing against the wondrous backdrop. "Come on," he whispered, hope crackling like electricity coursing through the crowd. Every face mirrored determination, hearts united in purpose as they finally guided the raft down toward the baby whale. He felt the warmth of 1,000 smiles, the crowd surging with life. "We can do this together. "We are family," he said, his voice rising above the cacophony. A call to community. The moment hung with heavy emotion. A symbol of resilience echoed through the water, the gentle rise and fall of the whales reaffirming the connection they had all felt. What seemed impossible was now a vivid tapestry woven through trust and determination. Suddenly, the rhythmic thundering shifted. The adult whale sang a sonorous call that penetrated the very depths of their souls, resonating longingly, a moment of transcendence. As if the ocean itself was applauding their bond, silence wrapped around the gathering, wonder and resolve blended into a singular breathtaking realization. This was the moment. In unison, they maneuvered the baby whale to the safety of the raft, easing it into a cradle formed by collective strength. Cheers erupted not just for the whales but for one another, a celebration of unity against all odds. In that dazzling moment, they found their purpose echoing powerfully in the harmony of family. To nurture, to protect what they loved. The whales had led them to the heart of their community's strength, an heirloom legacy renewed upon the tides. Jake looked back at Mary, tears glistening in their eyes, and shared a radiant smile, a promise of new beginnings, a future ignited by hope. They hadn't just saved the whales. They had saved their very own hearts, rekindled their connection to nature, and memory swept through the community, forever weaving their tales together. Together, Jake whispered, "We'll rise." No one could have imagined how the whale's presence would launch them into this journey, but they found connection upon layers of the ocean's waves, a legacy worth carrying into the future. This was their moment. As they turned to face the crowd, hearts soaring with joy, a feeling of gratitude washed over him. They had triumphed, albeit through unexpected hardships. Their conversations would continue, stirring the cauldron of shared visions, fishing sustainably, caring for the waters, and guarding the lives within. With the echoes of the adult whale's call lingering in their hearts, Jake knew they were ready. The tides had shifted. They had embraced change and nurtured a bond, and everyone stood for the struggle of their community, ready to navigate the waters ahead. Now, as the sun dipped below the shimmering horizon, a new chapter awaited them, one filled with the promise of transformation and the indomitable spirit of family. But this is the moment to celebrate with each other and with you, dear reader, a moment to share love, commitment, and unity. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel to follow along on this incredible journey and the exclusive stories that await. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. Please comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending, and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation happen. Only true fans understand the importance of rallying around support. Don't wait not even one more second. Let us keep this energy alive.